Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. This is going to be my first question and answer video in response to the lovely questions that you left for me on my gratitude video, which I made to say thank you for helping me to reach 1,000 subscribers, which is something that still is just blowing my mind. I don't want to bore anyone, and I don't want to make a ridiculously long video. So I'm probably going to break this up into a couple of parts. But here's the first installment. My first question, I'm going to ask the first question from my friend Fred at Read by Fred. Fred was my first subscriber ever, and that was months and months before I had a BookTube channel. Fred liked a comment that I left. We think it was on Steve Donahue's channel on one of Steve's videos. And Fred liked my comment so much that he responded to my comment and then went and subscribed to me, even though I didn't have a channel. And I don't think I even had dreams of a channel yet. So Fred gets the first question. Fred says, my two questions are, what is your favorite meal, and have you ever read a book that has inspired you to visit the place in the book? Well, I'm going to take the second part first. I've been talking in many videos now about how I am planning a trip to Ireland, and I have been reading Irish novels for years, and I'm reading lots and lots of them right now, and you know, they definitely have influenced me and my desire to plan this trip to Ireland. The first part of Fred's question is, what is my favorite meal? I've talked in many videos about my Irish background, my Irish heritage. However, I'm actually only half Irish. My mother was 100% Italian, and her parents, my grandparents, came from a little village outside of Naples. So my favorite foods are Italian foods, and they're all things that my mother and my aunts and my grandmother used to make. And they're simple. My mother used to say it was simple. It was peasant Italian food. That's how she and her sisters used to describe it. Simple country dishes. My mother and her sisters and my grandmother, they all made the most delicious pasta fazool that you could ever even imagine. And in our family, it was a full meal. It was not a soup. It was not a side dish. And that is still one of my favorite things to eat. And it's something I can make really well also. My mother's braciole and my mother's meatballs to go along with a pasta were also just to die for, and these are things that remain my very favorites. All of my aunts and my grandmother and my mother made a delicious lasagna and an incredible baked ziti. So all of these Italian foods are in my repertoire and my very favorite foods. Okay, next. A subscriber, Nina DP, says, here's my question. What are some books, either classic or contemporary, that you never got the chance to teach but would have loved to? Well, here's the thing. I taught in two different schools in my 39-year career. And I can tell you that I pretty much was able to teach what I wanted to teach. Both of these schools were very progressive schools with very supportive administrations for most of my career, and we had a curriculum director who was absolutely visionary, and so we would revise our curriculum every 5 years to keep it current and relevant. We were always renewing, revisiting, refreshing the curriculum. And over the course of my career, I taught every grade. I taught 8th through 12th grade. So there isn't much that I could have wanted to teach that I wasn't able to teach. We didn't have anything like, the book banning and the, the sort of hovering over the curriculum that, I've been reporting on in the band book project. If I were still teaching today, I would be introducing, new and current literature as well. I would love to be able to teach a science fiction elective now that I have delved into that genre. I would love to be able to do that, and that's not something that I ever did in my career. There are contemporary novels that I've read recently that I would love to have the opportunity to teach, to talk about with students. I would love to be able to discuss with students Percival Everett's James, Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I would love to be able to teach that novel. But in my actual career, when I was teaching, we were able to put forth books and get them approved and teach them. So I had a very, very rich and varied teaching experience. Okay, thank you for that question, Nina. Next, Nikki at My Messy Bookshelf. Nikki asks, did you ever have a teacher who inspired you to pursue English as a career? Most definitely. I had 2 high school English teachers, my 10th grade English teacher and my 11th grade English teacher, who were enormously influential and remain, models in my mind of some of the, the very best that a teacher can be. And they helped me with everything. They helped me with the college application process, but just the way they were with us, with the kids, made me want to be an English teacher. And I'm still in touch with both of them today, although not nearly as much as I would like to be. Number 2, what was your favorite book to teach? And was there a book that you hated to teach? Well, this question is complicated because I taught so many different grade levels throughout my career. So I probably had a favorite book for every course that I taught. When you have taught for almost 40 years, you get to teach a lot of things. When I taught 9th graders, my favorite book to teach was To Kill a Mockingbird. When I taught 10th graders, in my most recent district where I was for 31 years, that was an American literature course, and my favorite books to teach in that course were The Great Gatsby and Catcher in the Rye. So those were my favorite 10th grade books. When I taught 11th grade, for the many years that I taught 11th grade, it was a British literature course, and my favorites to teach in that course were Macbeth and Lord of the Flies. And when I taught 12th grade, which is what I taught for the last many years of my career, and I taught several different senior English classes. Among my favorites to teach to seniors were The Kite Runner, Hamlet, and I also taught just a contemporary fiction class, and we kept introducing new books and kid-friendly books and reader-friendly books, and I had an incredible experience teaching Stephen King. in that class, teaching the Green Mile. So these are just a few of the books that I taught in the many courses that I taught, but they were all favorites. Is there a book you hated to teach? No, I never hated to teach anything. There certainly were books that were more difficult to teach than the ones that I just mentioned. Early on in my life at this second district where I taught, we used to teach Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letter to 10th graders, and it was impossible. It was impossible for them to read. They didn't like it. A lot of them didn't read it. It was really, really difficult. So we eventually decided that we didn't need to teach The Scarlet Letter. We could introduce Hawthorne by teaching some of his wonderful short stories, and they were much more accessible and just not as long. So that's what I would answer there. I didn't hate teaching The Scarlet Letter, but it's very hard to teach something that kids aren't getting and that they're not, that they don't like, that they're not interested in. So we learned from that. And Nikki's last question is, who is your favorite Pride and Prejudice character? I love Elizabeth Bennet. I'm going to go with Elizabeth. Okay. All right, next. Stuart Griffin, 1001. Stuart asks, is there a genre that you haven't read from yet, but would like to read from? And that's a really good question, because one of the things that Booktube has really done for me is that it has opened up my mind and my reading repertoire. I have been trying lots of new genres since I have been first following Booktube and then now as a booktuber myself. As I've talked about in several different videos, I really opened myself up to science fiction because of Booktube. I have read horror because of Booktube. I read westerns because of Booktube. I already read classics. I read contemporary fiction. I read poetry. I read graphic novels. I read memoirs, and I read historical fiction. So I think, if there's a genre that I don't really read, I guess it would be romance. I would try that. That it's not something that I have a burning desire to read, but that's one that I haven't, branched out into. And now that I'm so brave because I've read a couple of horror novels, I think thrillers might be something that, that's a genre I haven't really explored, and I think I would probably, I think I would probably have some fun there. So that's what I'm going to say, thrillers. Okay, I think I got all the questions from that page. Okay, Debs at Rainer Reads Stuff also asks, she said, I would like to know what was your favorite book to teach? So I think I have answered that. And again, it was different for every course that I was teaching. And that was one of the things that never really changed for me throughout my career. I always taught a diversity of courses and classes. Even in the last years when I taught mostly seniors, I was teaching 3 different senior courses and a writing course. So I was always teaching what we call preps, 3 or 4 different preps at any given time. I was the department chair. I thought it was important that I be able to teach everything and that I teach all over the spectrum. I didn't give myself an easy assignment. I tried to be equitable, and I tried to let everybody teach to their strengths, and everybody taught a kind of varied schedule. But my favorites to teach depended on the grade, and I won't repeat that. Okay. Next, Helen Claire 3250, who is a subscriber, asks several questions. First, you are having a limited space dinner party for authors. You can only invite 3. 1 American for your nationality, 1 British for me, and 1 Irish for our shared heritage. Who would they be? That's a lovely question. So I cheated on this question because, hang on here, let me just take care of something here. Because I have favorite authors that I would like to bring back from the great beyond, and then I have favorite authors who are still living. So if I were to pick a deceased American author, I think I would like to invite Zora Neale Hurston. If I were to pick a living American author, I would pick Barbara Kingsolver. If I were to pick a deceased British author, I would pick Virginia Woolf. And a living British author, Zadie Smith. An Irish, a deceased Irish author, Nuala O'Foilan, who I've been reading a great deal of lately, and a living Irish author, Claire Keegan. Okay. Bonus question, if you have time, you can bury a time capsule of 3 special books to be discovered in the future that will represent you. What would they be? So I think the first book would be a children's book. I'm going to say Ezra Jack Keats' A Snowy Day. That's the first book that I took out of the library, and it may be the first book that I read. But it's also a book that I have given as a gift to many children. I am someone who gives books as gifts to my many friends who have young children, and I think I'm associated with that. So I would definitely put a children's book in the capsule. I would put Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird in the capsule as well, because reading that book when I was a little kid, probably too young to really be reading it, that's when I knew. I knew that I needed to come home and read every day, and I knew that I wanted to do something with literature, and I think I was in like the 4th or 5th grade, but it had this very profound effect on me. And then of course I read it again. I read it in high school, and I read it when I was teaching it. I read it many times, but it was one of those pivotal books early in my life. So that would go in the capsule. And I didn't know what to pick for my 3rd book, so I asked my very dear friend Juliet, what does she think of when she thinks of me? And she said Louise Penny. So I would put a Louise Penny book in the time capsule, because Louise Penny reminds Juliet of me, and it's an author that we share, and it's a world that I love. So that's what I'm going to say for that. Those were great questions. My friend Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads asks, Is there a book you were ever tempted to hurl across the room? Greg knows the answer to this. Greg and I are reading Ulysses together right now. And this is a reread for me. This is my third read of Ulysses, but this is most definitely a book that, at times has been so frustrating that I'm ready to just, hurl it. Not going to do that. I'm going to finish the book. I'm here for the long haul, but that is definitely a book that I wouldn't mind tossing across the room from time to time. Okay, I'm going to stop this episode here now because I still have a lot of questions and this is getting to be really long. So stay with me. There's another part or two coming. But as always, I thank you for these great questions and I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.